I'm a Toys R Us kid. They got a million toys at Toys R Us that I can play with. I don't want to grow up. I'm a Toys R Us kid. They got the best for so much less. You really flip your lid. From bikes to trains to video games, it's the biggest toy store there is.
Gee whiz!
I don't want to grow up, 'cause baby, if I did, I couldn't be a Toys R Us kid. More games, more toys. Oh boy, I want to be a Toys R Us kid.
Naga 124, your source for news, entertainment, food, and jibber jabber. Put on your thinking caps, collect all your Jeffreys, and prepare for your debriefing on current events. This week on Niagara 124, it's the end of the world as we know it, and no one's quite feeling fine.
I am.
It seems as if the entirety of the 90s just collapsed upon itself, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, well, you're about to find out. All this and more on 124. Hello, everyone. How is everyone doing on this Friday, March 16th, 2018? Welcome to Niagara 124. As always, I'm Nico.
I'm Bobby.
And I'm Joe. And
if anything that could have happened this week happened this week. Well, fun fact, we weren't on last week because I was
in South Florida.
I was in Disney.
Yeah, Nico was in Disney. I was in Fort Lauderdale.
I was here.
And if you want to hear about my trip to Disney, go find Mouseworks from Chelsea's Disney.
Yeah.
I'm not linking to it. You
Follow
could
me on
go find it.
Follow me on Twitter if you want to hear about my
Shameless
things.
plugs. And then the week before that was like the day, like his last day before spring break, and there was a massive blizzard that shut down the school. So
Lol.
we're back after 2 weeks, and in a few weeks from now we'll be gone again.
I remember
because of
nothing.
Easter break.
I remember nothing that happened.
Cool.
So I am currently wearing my morning clothes.
Because Toys R Us, ladies and gentlemen, has been taken to the back of the woodshed and now has 2 in it.
Well, that's one way to put it. I am wearing, so in case you didn't know, in October, Toys R Us filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection because it had, like, I don't know, like 6 or 8 billion and some billions and billions of dollars in debt that they had since, like, 2007 when they were bought out by whoever bought them, and then it just kind of sat there and nothing happened, and through a cavalcade of poor decisions, it kind of just amassed into this ridiculous debt. So they filed for bankruptcy protection, tried to fold it down. There was a bad season because the hot toy last year cost like $30. So, you know, that's not really a moneymaker. It wasn't a $200 gaming system.
What was the hot toy?
Fingerlings.
What?
Huh?
They were little robotic animals that you hung from your finger. They were...
I did not hear a single thing about the...
They were really dumb. I have 4 of them. They're really dumb. But so they started, and back in January, February, they announced they were shutting down a bunch of stores. A lot of the baby stores, which was surreal because that just now people that had, I don't know, the baby business is complicated because Toys R Us kind of felt that the baby business wasn't doing well, but the baby business back 10 years ago, the only reason that the buyers bought Toys R Us was because they wanted Babies R Us. So fun fact, that pretty much means, and all these people have registries, so pretty much all that's left for like baby registry is Bye Bye Baby, and Bye Bye Baby is not as good. And I mean, I may be biased because I'm sitting here in the 1999 teal,
I have a feeling
Babies
you're
R Us polo,
very biased.
but Babies R Us stores were great. And shout out to 9282. If I get that number wrong, I'm gonna have to leave. I'm pretty sure it's BRU 9282. The Amherst store. Shout out to Babies R Us Amherst, which I have been a part of pretty much almost my entire life since 1999. I was there when they built that plaza in Boulevard Plaza, where that giant, ridiculous plaza in Amherst with Target and Barnes & Noble. And
I was one when that was built.
Yeah. So I was like 3, 4, somewhere in that, I think. Yeah, 99 I would have been.
You were born in 95, right?
Yeah, but I was born in December of 95. So,
oh.
yeah. So, I'm currently in my uniform because let's talk about this. My mom has been with the company for a very long time. Fun fact, I was almost born in Kids R Us because I was born a month premature because when you're a manager of a store, there's no such thing as a break. So fun fact.
You were almost born.
I was almost born there. Fun fact, I was also there for the closing of Kids R Us. The first sign that something was amiss. When the Titanic hit the iceberg.
And you didn't roll a 20 for perception.
Oh no, don't go into
What?
that. Don't go into that. But I'm wearing the old 1999 uniform, which this is mine. This is actually from Take Your Kid to Work Day. So
Take your baby to work.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they had these until about like 2004. They had the pink shield. This was the first. They call them pink shield because they're these giant pink name tags that are really obnoxious. And then they went to what we call the eggplant and wheat era, where all the colors were purple and like a wheaty color, which I don't have on here, but I have that name tag. And then I have the brief stint at Toys R Us, which was just a lanyard, where I have been delighting guests since 2012, apparently. Because even in a fictional universe, I have worked for all 3 companies. And I have the current Babies R Us name tag. So I've kind of grown up with this company, so I'm a bit sad.
I can tell.
To say the least. And I have all the Jeffrey pins and all the ones. And my mom has a great one that she's wearing right now that says, there's never been a better time to be a part of Toys R Us. And I found that pin when digging through the pins, and I looked at my mom like, you gotta wear this to work because this is right on the money. But,
Yeah, I like Toys R Us.
I never really got the appeal of shopping for stuff like that. I used to.
Shopping is dumb.
Shopping is
Shopping
dumb.
is
Shopping is
great.
dumb.
Listen,
You are the only one who
listen
likes.
here.
You are the only one who, I think, in this room who likes shopping.
Shopping is therapeutic.
I don't mind
For
shopping.
you. For me, it's boring.
Of course it is, because you only go to boring stores.
No.
Yeah, what stores you go to, Joe?
None, because I never got any reason to.
Your argument. I also have my gold Toys R Us ring, which may be one of the reasons they went bankrupt. They handed out gold Toys R Us rings.
And a watch, apparently, it told me.
Yeah, the watch was only plated. It wasn't full. It wasn't gold.
This is full gold?
I think it's mixed.
Huh.
Getting a call from an unknown number, as per usual, at least 5 times a week.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I get that too.
So you know the new trick now with the numbers, right?
What is it?
So the bad robocalls and these like scammers and stuff, they figure out your number and they'll send you a number
Yeah,
with the
it's-
first
yeah,
three
it's the
numbers
same-
of yours. And so you think it must be that, but it's a trick. So Toys R Us
Is gone.
gone.
Want me to play the sad violin for you?
No, but when it was announced that Toys R Us was going bankrupt, when it went on, I came downstairs with Jeffrey, my little stuffed Jeffrey that I have like 700. I have every era of Jeffrey. I had the Jeffrey in my Titanic uniform and started playing Near My God to Thee on my phone. And my mom burst out laughing because at this point, Babies R Us has already been closing for 2 months, so she knew that we were, it was a mess. So at this point, it was like, if we had all just found out everyone was losing their jobs, it would be sad, but considering we already knew we were, sinking, it was kind of sarcastic. And there's a photo
I do love that sarcastic
of me
nose.
holding Jeffrey that says, with the uniform, and says, Near My Jeffrey to Thee. So,
Nice.
I'm going to miss Toys R Us.
Eh.
There was a possibility that Canada and Japan would try to buy their stores and possibly fold in 200 U.S. stores into it to try to keep it alive, but once again, 6-ish, 8-ish billion in debt they would have to touch.
Yeah.
All right, we're taking that unicorn off the wall and we're propping Jeffrey's head up on it.
Jeffrey's head will be mounted to the... Yeah, no, that's
We have
sad.
pillaged this corpse.
So one of the fun things, though, is Chuck Schumer, our lovely senator who doesn't seem to know how business works at all, came out and said that Toys R Us knew full well they were going bankrupt back in October, but continued to sell gift cards. And therefore, they should be forced to exchange those gift cards for cash. Now, fun fact, starting Monday... Toys R Us ceases to exist and is instead a combination of a liquidation company, which, fun fact, if you ever see going out of business stores, anytime you see those yellow signs that say, prices slash, that's a liquidation company. You no longer work for Toys R Us, you're working for a liquidation company. But let's just say the liquidation company didn't exist. Toys R Us is now going to be under control of a Virginia court. So when Chuck Schumer says, well, Toys R Us should have to pay it, there is no Toys R Us. You want the state of Virginia to pay the state of New York? What do you want? One way or another, it's taxpayers paying themselves. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, I don't... Chuck, no.
Speaking of Congress...
Yay, let's talk about these things.
Ooh.
So, I get a text message this morning from my friend Emily. So Louise Slaughter, who used to be our representative, in fact, I was in her office in 2007 when I was in World Leadership Forum. I never actually met her because she wasn't in Washington, D.C. that week. But when they redistricted, she ended up in Rochester. She passed away at the age of 88.
Yeah.
Was the oldest currently serving member
of Congress.
of the House.
Of the House, yeah, because the Senate has...
I think the Senate has...
The Senate has a Leahy from Vermont. He's older, I think.
Yeah. But, so, the thing was, though, and, Emily was considering getting an internship at Slaughter's office, but she had to move to Rochester. She was unsure. But she was filing and everything. And a couple days ago, when they announced because Slaughter, she fell in her D.C. home, and they had her in the hospital for concussion protocol, oddly enough. And I sent it to Emily, and I'm like, and Emily's like, that's not good. And then Emily just sent me today. She's like, oh, she passed away. I'm like, yeah, your job hunt is just really sucking for Emily.
'Tis tragic.
But it's going to be interesting to see who's going to replace her, because she was a powerhouse. Slaughterhouse Rules was a thing.
Yeah, I know she was very big in the House, especially.
She was massive. And even afterwards, she was one of the most powerful minority members in the House still, and right up until, now she's died. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with that, because...
It's going to be big shoes to fill.
That brings up another interesting point, that the median age of the Democrats is 400. I think we just need to, and people have been making fun of that. Yeah. The fact that the Democrats used to be the young
hip
the young party.
Yeah.
And oddly enough, the Republicans are starting to be younger.
Yeah.
So it's going to be.
I think that shows the Democrats have lost touch with like certain generations, especially like some of the younger generations, who I think have just gotten sick of sort of the silliness that the Democrats have been throwing out, especially during the recent election.
But they have. The problem is politics is getting a bit convoluted.
No, you think?
Politics has always been a mess, and people have. It's always been this way. The problem is before, it was either you'd get it in the newspaper and then you'd talk about it, or you'd get it on the evening news and you'd talk about it. Even when we got to the CNN era, you could turn it off. Now it's embedded.
The Twitter.
It's before where maybe an IV drip. Now it's like they're waterboarding you with politics. You can't escape it anymore. And people that don't know the full picture of politics are like saying things in politics, and then the problem is if you make it look stupid, that just gives the opposing side ammunition.
Yeah.
Case in point, now first of all, a very good thing that happened this week was the school walkouts.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That was awesome. Like, that was finally, because I remember when I was the only kid in my school that cared about politics, that cared about any of this kind of stuff.
I'm happy that today's children are doing more than their adults to get things done.
Yeah,
that is amazingly impressive. Like, admittingly, I have some differing opinions on firearms, but yeah, it is impressive that they're getting involved.
But one of the posts that immediately, this right-wing kind of NRA pro-gun section, the extremist section of it, picked up on was the some of the posters. And particularly there was one poster that I read, and I showed it to my friend, and my friend looked and said, and he looked at me and he's like, this is the problem with protesting sometimes. Sometimes people just want to protest, but they don't want to do the homework to make sure what they're saying is correct.
Yeah.
She had a poster that said, President Trump, if your workplace is gun-free zone, why isn't mine?
I got that, and I was like, wow, they don't know what they're talking about.
Like, do you not know that there's armed guards on every inch of the White House?
Schools are already gun-free
zones.
Visitors,
it's a gun-free zone for visitors, and I think that's what she was trying to mean, but
the message kind of didn't come out
really
correctly.
did not function, and the problem was immediately all the gun people picked this up and they're like, well, look at this idiot. And I'm like, you need to almost pay attention when you're, especially with a sign, because the internet loves corrupting their signs. You know how that is. You have to be sure that whatever message... yeah, change my mind. You have to be sure whatever message you're putting out there cannot be corrupted or twisted or misinterpreted in any way.
You really gotta dot your I's and cross your T's on this.
And there's
because
been...
I have experience with that. I know you really, especially the stuff I talk about, I need to be as precise as possible to make sure people don't get the wrong idea.
Yes. And one of the issues is, it seems, and especially today, because we've always been a reactive culture, but it's a reactive culture where you said something stupid and 5 people heard it. You didn't tweet something stupid and the entire world saw it till the end of time. And including our president, who can't seem to understand that. So our issue right now is we've always been a reactive culture, but because we now have access to something that can cause a lot more damage with a lot more people, we need to really kind of, dot your I's, cross your T's.
Yeah.
And no one's doing that. People certainly are not dotting their I's and crossing their T's.
Cross their I's and dot their T's.
Cross their I's and I did just say that. I knew I was going to say that.
No, you didn't. Oh, you didn't say it. No, I was just saying it.
I kept saying in my mind. I kept saying dot
T's, cross
dot
I's.
your O's and cross your Q's.
Ooh. I
cross.
mean, you gotta cross Q's. You gotta put the little...
Yeah, the little thingy, but it's not like a full cross.
Not if you're doing a cursive.
That's like a Danish thing where you do the circle and a cross through it, like a diagonal cross through it, the Danish umlaut.
Oh, that weird
thing. Yeah. Anyway.
How about that Space Force that we're going to be getting?
I-
We're going to implement a
I
Space
love
Force.
how Donald Trump is just taking.
What about the
ideas-
Space Force?
Okay, so you know how Reagan wanted the Strategic Defense Initiative in the 80s?
Star
and
Wars- it
the
was
Star
a
Wars.
bluff.
Star Wars.
Yeah, and it was a bluff.
Guess what Donald Trump just announced?
Well,
Star Wars.
he did.
won.
But
The way-
is it
the way-
a bluff?
Does
the way,
he
he,
want it?
the way he said it, he's like, we got the Navy, we got the Air Force, we got the ground force. We need a Space Force. We need to fight wars in space or something like that. It's like
Orbital.
Well, that's a Ronald Reagan thing.
You know
Yeah,
what,
It's just
yeah.
Ronald
guys,
Reagan.
guys, you know what we need? An orbital death satellite.
You mean,
for
you
peaceful
mean what the
purposes.
Russians have?
Yes.
we
You mean what the Russians have had for years?
we Star Wars now.
we was Star Wars.
was.
So anyway, that's fun. But I got.
Speaking of Star Wars, I met Kylo Ren and Chewbacca at Disney.
Oh shoot!
And you also got arrested.
The action.
I
By
got
the
arrested
stormtrooper.
by stormtroopers thanks to my mother. Yeah, my mother got me arrested by stormtroopers. She's like, "Oh no, come on, take him for a photo." And they just looked and they're like, "You match a known rebel." And I just talked to Kylo Ren, like refusing to join the First Order, so I was arrested. It was great. And then
Trumped up Star Wars
and
charges.
They took me away.
Wow.
Although I met a bunch of princesses too, and that was fun. And the Frozen ride is really cool. But you know what ride is really dumb?
What?
You know okay, so I couldn't go on the Pandora Banshee ride. That's supposed to be really cool.
What is it?
Yeah.
So they rebuilt Pandora in Animal Kingdom, like from Avatar.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh shoot!
Oh, you live under a rock, Bobby.
When I haven't been
Yeah,
there, I haven't,
I remember they built that thing.
I haven't
They
been there
just
since
built-
2014.
Well, no, they just
so-
built it, but it was all over the news.
Yeah.
So
How
they
is
built
it?
this thing where you ride banshees. I can't ride that because I'll get motion sickness.
Oh.
But I wrote Navi River Journey, which is like a cruise through Pandora. They have one animatronic in it, and like everyone's like, "Oh, it's so high tech," but it still looks kind of stupid.
Yeah.
And it's just like, and if it ever breaks down, that ride is worthless. And I'm glad I fast passed it because if you waited 2 hours for that ride, wow, your life sucks. Like you must hate yourself.
Oh. Speaking of hatred, I got a story for you guys. So this is actually an interesting story, which not many major news. Well, they're reporting on it now
Oh,
because a
no.
lot of independent
This
journalists started reporting on it.
Journalism.
Yes, reliable independent journalists, Nico. Do
those exist?
Yes, they exist.
Reliable journalism?
There is reliable journalism, but so for those of you who don't know, there's a situation going on in South Africa that not many people have been covering. So as you know, South Africa has been going through a bit of a turbulent period. Their president resigned, Zuma on corruption charges. But recently there's been
South
this...
Africa, corruption, and
no.
tough times? Wow.
But this is...
It is the 90s,
But
isn't it?
this'll even shock you even more. There's racial problems in South Africa. Specifically,
I really wish we had James on. I wish we could find James in his little Anglican seminary.
talking about
and,
De Beers.
and just come in here and just talk about this because
Yeah,
he'd
but-
be all over that.
But this is legitimately a problem because South Africa is starting to resemble Zimbabwe because they've started seizing lands of farmers based on the fact that they are the minority, which happens to be white in South Africa, and they are seizing the lands and they are occasionally killing them. And this has been reported by journalists, independent journalists, and eventually got picked up by news organizations. And even though your thoughts may be like, oh, maybe these people, participated in the regime, not all these people participated in the regime. And even if they did, that doesn't justify, taking their lands and murdering them based on the color of their skin.
So here's the deal with South Africa.
Yeah?
And so my friend's in African politics right now, and
Yeah?
that doesn't involve, they don't really study North Africa or South Africa, they study Sub-Saharan Africa mainly.
Yeah.
Africa's a mess right now.
Yeah, it's kind of been a
the
mess for a
internal
while.
it's been a mess forever, and there's interference that has led to that mess, and then lack of interference that has led to more mess, and then
We could go on a whole thing.
it could go on forever. And at this point, I don't think there's going to be any easy solution, and
Well, no. What they're doing now is they're starting to allow these South African refugees. Australia just started opening up its refugees to these people fleeing this persecution.
Oh, immediately know a counter complaint that's going to happen because of that.
Oh, yeah, it's going to have to do with the fact that these are white people fleeing South Africa. They're probably racist.
No, that's not what I meant. What I meant was the fact that a lot of these countries, I don't know. Australia has been kind of taking refuge. I don't know how Australia's been taking refugees from.
They've been taking them pretty steadily. They've been reasonably kind of.
Because if any of these countries that refuse Syrian refugees
start taking
take these South African refugees,
yeah, it's gonna be a PR nightmare.
It's gonna be bad.
Yeah,
and it's not even gonna be a PR nightmare. It's just a nightmare. It's a mistake. It's a mistake.
But admittingly, I really think that look, refugees are refugees no matter the color of their skin. I think as long as you're reasonably taking them in, like not just obviously not laying them all in, but reasonably letting a good sort of.
One of my irritations with this, and I feel that some of this had to do with the fact that, and this is the way information for the public has to be created in bite-sized cookie chunks. They can't have complexity. They can't have complexity. And one of the issues was the media just started talking about this refugee crisis, and it allowed people in the U.S. to kind of go on these anti-refugee tangents, which were, and saying it's dangerous, which was...
Well, admittingly, you could argue that sort of unfettered, unregulated entrance into borders.
But it never was, and that's what the irony of it now is.
What, are we arguing? Because we can put up crime statistics.
Well, I know, we could look at that, but what I'm saying is, now you could look at the way in which we allow refugees. The way in which we allow refugees in this country has evolved over years and years and years.
Yeah.
Obama's regulations, in order to even start letting Syrian refugees in, were quite steep.
Yeah, we have a vetting process.
That vetting process was very, very thorough.
Yeah. So we have a vetting process.
We had a strong... So when people were complaining about that and saying we shouldn't be letting these people in, I said, you're not even paying attention to the vetting process, because if you knew that... I mean, this is a stronger vetting process than pretty much anyone else.
Oh, yeah. The thing is, we're not like Germany or Sweden, where they were just basically letting anybody in and it ended up going really wrong. We have a vetting process.
And the difference with, Germany... And Italy has this problem right now, too. We are...
Good at assimilation?
No, we are at a convenience where we are in a completely different hemisphere. There is no... It's not like... And this happened with Cuba,
Yeah.
when the boats were coming from Cuba and landing in Miami.
Yeah.
We don't have boats from Syria landing on our shores. You have, Turkey and Italy and all this Mediterranean states are literally having refugees wash up on their shores.
Yeah.
Now, we can vet ours because we have them holding somewhere like Turkey or some other country. These other countries, how are you going to vet a mass exodus that is literally just showing up on your shores?
Oh, it's a very difficult...
It's
a very difficult situation.
There's no win in that.
On one hand, you don't want to just have unfettered, letting everybody in, but on the other hand, it's very
difficult. You don't really have a
it.
choice, because how are you going to stop it?
I mean, sort of like the Balkans were having border checkpoints and telling everybody that to stay in this area before they could vet people. But even that was kind of a logistical nightmare.
Yeah, it doesn't... The logistics will never add up for this, and this is why it's called a crisis. It's not... and you have to remember, these people are running away...
From one of the worst civil wars in human history.
95% of the country is obliterated.
I don't think Assad even has a country that he now controls. There is no country.
This is, Syria at this point is now just target practice for a bunch of different groups, because there's not really anything left of the country, and also because of this, and it got so derailed, we lost 5,000-year-old
because
archaeological sites.
Because of the iconoclasm of the fundamentalist factions in Syria.
Yes. And the problem was, because there is no basis and no one can agree on anything and everyone's just running, this is Syria is almost like a case scenario of what happens when
everything goes wrong.
The end of the world as you know it, and so everything just kind of goes... crazy, and there's just destroy everything because it's
It really is one of the worst. I think it will be remembered, if it ever ends, as one of the worst civil wars in human history.
It will be, and one of the issues with Syria right now is, and they've very much said this, you know, they're like, oh, we'll take in the refugees until the Civil War is over. When the Civil War is over, you're going to have to spend so much money. The entire world is probably going to have to come in to try to rebuild Syria. Syria does not have the money to rebuild Syria.
They're literally...
Those refugees are going to be away from that country for a very, very long time.
Assad and his government are standing on rubble. They have basically destroyed the entire country that they wanted to hold on to. And actually, I think you can argue that Syria is also a perfect example of the most extreme level dictatorships will go to maintain power. Like, literally leveling 90% of their country just to keep their power.
It is.
Yeah.
But it's also how far an alliance, you know, this is almost like a mix of World War I combined with like your standard
it's kind of
supreme dictator, because
it's kind of like that, because you have Assad backed by Russia and Iran.
We're fighting a pseudo Cold War again.
Yeah,
That's
while
what
the
this really is.
while the Saudis and the Gulf states are funding the rebels, and with us occasionally throwing in cash, and then you have the Kurds who just want their own thing. They don't want to deal with anybody, and we're funding the Kurds, but nobody likes the Kurds.
You know, this is a World War I-esque alliance mess.
You know how
on top of everything.
Yeah, you know how Bismarck said that the great European conflagration will come from some damn fool thing in the Balkans? Well,
he wasn't wrong.
He wasn't wrong, but now I say the next great global conflagration will come from some damn fool thing in the Middle East.
I don't think we're ever going to have a point where there's going to be another world war.
I don't think so either.
Everyone
Given
always
the
says
advent of nuclear weapons.
You know, and that's the thing. And people are just like, oh man, there's going to be a nuke. No one, and this is the one thing I always try to warn people is, there will never really be a point. As much as we're afraid that someone's going to use their nuclear weapon,
nobody wants to end the world.
No one's going to end the world.
The only person that I'd be afraid of ending the world is a sect like ISIS. The fundamentalists who want to end the world. If they get their hands on a dirty bomb and they detonate it in the middle of D.C., that's what I'm most afraid of. Terrorist organizations detonating like a nuke in like a major city.
It's always a possibility, but they're never going to have the capability.
Even if like a complete fundamentalist
they're never going to
regime.
have the capability of ending the world. And that's the caveat of these things is, as much as we all are sitting on things that could end the world, no one, you know.
Thanks, Bobby.
Yeah, no one's gonna do it. You know, even at this point,
you honestly hope.
Well,
that
they're saying, like, I mean, let's talk about the fact that Donald Trump has decided to be the first sitting president ever to go visit the leader of North Korea.
That's gonna be fun. Right?
Let's hope this goes well. Let's hope.
They'll play basketball.
Now
Dennis Rodman comes in and he's playing with Trump.
Now here's the fact about North Korea that I think needs to be understood. I do not believe that they are they're a little nuts. I mean, clearly, but I don't think they're insane enough that they would sign their own death certificate by attacking anyone with a nuclear weapon.
Exactly.
Because everyone around them would be able to blow them off the face of the earth within 10 seconds.
No matter how crazy people say Kim Jong-un is, what you have to remember about dictatorships, in my time studying dictatorships, my very short time studying dictatorships, I'm not exactly an academic expert on this, but dictators, always the key point is to hold on to power. And if Kim is dead and his country is leveled, he is not holding on to power. So it really doesn't make much sense for him to say, nuke the United States and cause his entire country to be turned into rubble.
And and I feel like that's one of those things that we need to be vigilant and we need to, take these things seriously, but we shouldn't be,
sensationalist.
Yes. It shouldn't be like we're all going to die because...
Start playing I Don't Want to Set the World on Fire, we're all doomed.
Because... a bag of Cheetos is meeting up with... I don't got anything for Kim
Fat kimchi?
Wow, that's racist.
Bag of Cheetos.
I don't think it is. How about a fat bag of pork rinds? Is that better? Is that worse?
I don't think we.
Bag of chips.
Angry baby boy.
Angry baby boy.
Angry baby boy. I like that one. It's like. It's gonna be like you know when the babies argue with each other in those viral videos.
It's gonna be that.
Baby fight.
Baby
fight.
Now, if we just thought of it as that and ignored the fact that the fate of the civilized world depends upon these
It's okay.
talks.
It's okay. Trump just has to drop a bowling ball on his car. It'll be all good.
Oh man.
Side note: we were going through because Comedy Central's showing reruns of The Office, and we've decided that okay. So first of all, let me put the backup of this story so it makes sense. Weird Al Yankovic was for some reason he was in Buffalo too, but he was in Niagara Falls, and he posted a photo of him in Niagara Falls.
I saw you retweet
and it was fun fact, before it was used mainly for Instagram, Niagara Falls produced hydroelectric power, which was like, I'm like, oh, that is cool that he said that. That's like, we should visit Buffalo Niagara. Tweets back, hey, great to see you in Buffalo. Okay, that photo's in Niagara Falls. Fun fact, this tweet was sent via UHF waves. And I'm like, okay, the whole point was he was tweeting about the fact that Niagara Falls was a pinnacle of hydroelectric power. The fact that this tweet was sent via UHF waves has nothing to do with anything. So we decided, my mom first looked and my mom said that Buffalo is the Dwight Schrute of New York State. And I said, they might be giving it too much credit. Buffalo's more like the Andy Bernard of New York State. Although it could be the Dwight. Either way, they're trying to impress Albany, which is definitely Michael Scott. Albany is
Albany's Michael Scott.
Albany is Michael Scott. New York City is Jim. Niagara Falls is Toby. We are Toby. Everyone hates us. We're HR, and we're like, guys, like, can we just? And everyone's like, go back. No, go away, Toby. Go away, Toby.
Man.
So we're Toby.
Brooklyn Nine-Nine comes back on Sunday. I'm super excited about that.
Bobby's
be great.
excited for Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
It's the same writer, producer of The Office.
Wow. It's so great.
Oh, Stephen Hawking's dead.
Aww.
Which leaves us now
Stephen
with only two important scientists, a guy with a batch degree and Neil deGrasse Tyson. And I'm not excited about either of them because
which guy?
Bill Nye.
Bill Nye.
Who's not really. Dolph Lundgren has more
science experience
than Bill Nye.
I think
hilarious when you think about it.
I think
Ivan Drago is
Brian May has more science experience than Bill Nye.
Well, and Bill Nye's fun, but Bill Nye is just like he's your your fun face of science. He's like, let's pour vinegar and bake into the baking soda to create a volcano. He's that kind of scientist.
Yeah.
Neil deGrasse Tyson, who is great, but has slowly, because he became so popular on the internet for being a meme, is kind of become, I don't want to say full of himself, but if you ever look at his tweets,
sometimes
I want to be like, Neil,
what kind of tweets? Because I do love some of his smart ass tweets.
Those and sometimes he's complaining about movies, and I'm like he was making they hit him on CinemaSins to talk about how scientifically inaccurate half these movies were.
I thought it was
one
funny.
Of them was I like when he does Star Wars. Star Wars is not even remotely scientifically accurate. It's not supposed to be scientifically accurate.
But that's what makes it fun.
But sometimes when he tweets this stuff, it's like, yeah, no duh. He comes off sometimes as that sciencey guy, that the buzzkill. He comes off as the buzzkill sometimes.
Sometimes. I mean,
oh man, I love this movie. Well, in fact, scientifically, it'd be physically impossible to send a ship through hyperspace to destroy all these other ships.
Oh no!
It would create a black hole, which would blah blah, and it would be like, we know
How are we gonna
that.
implement our Space Force now?
Oh no!
Can we please have I want to be a space pirate.
Space pirate.
Can I be a space pirate?
No.
I want to be the guy from Firefly, or Spike from Cowboy Bebop.
The only movie I enjoyed him tearing apart was Gravity, because I hated Gravity.
Gravity was
Didn't
kind
see
of dumb.
Gravity.
Gravity, okay, so the issue with Gravity was everyone's like, oh, Gravity, like, the special effects are so cool, whatever. But the story was really dumb. And fun fact is, everyone's like, well, it's so scientifically accurate. Even though the shuttle would never be at the same orbiting capacity as, this space station and that space station and this one. You'd never be able, it's physically impossible to do everything she did in there.
Can The Shape of Water won Best Picture at the Oscars.
Oh, that was so weird. So I'm like watching.
Guillermo
I was
del
happy
Toro's-
that Del Toro won Best Director, but it was like that was when they're like, and Best Picture goes to Shape of Water. I was like, well, that's a plot twist. No one saw that coming.
I mean,
Human Love.
Del Toro does good work. The man
Del Toro is a furry.
No.
Someone made a comic. They're like, wait a second, why do all his movies involve dating fish people? Is he a furry? And someone drew him in the background. He's like, actually, they're called scalies when they're amphibians. And I was like, someone did their homework on this, and that's scary.
I love Del
Oh
Toro.
no.
Del Toro was great.
Yeah.
Although Pan's Labyrinth is a pain in the butt.
I thought that's like his most favorite one.
It is, but it's a ridiculous
When
movie.
he won both of his awards, Hideo Kojima retweeted it and put a bunch of emojis because they're best buds. They were
Really?
working. Yeah, they were working on Silent Hills together.
And then Konami killed
yeah,
it.
but I
I
think
like how
So
Did you hear Metal Gear Survival came out and nobody liked it?
ooh,
what? No way.
No way. It's like
Fun fact.
you get rid of Kojima, you kind of kill.
I like how Coco won for best song.
best song.
Yeah, which made me happy.
Why? Because of the mariachi music? I like
No,
mariachi.
because Coco was such a I finally got around to seeing Coco like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Never seen
And
it.
it's a really good movie. But it's kind of sad. It's a Pixar movie, so you cry.
What?
But
Sorry. Go ahead.
what was funny was I was happy that I think Coco deserved it, and Coco also won Best Animated Picture,
Yeah,
which was good. But it's funny because Coco was the only non-political song nominated. Every song was these political-esque or movement type songs,
Yeah.
which have won for the last few years.
Because Hollywood likes pushing its
because
ideology.
they've been doing that. But it's funny because this time they were just and oddly enough, and I'm sure there's a debate there that could happen. I was happy that Coco won because in this we are in a very political era, and the song from Coco is "Remember Me," and it's about just remember me though I have to go away. Remember, and it's this very kind of
Sad.
sad, sad but happy kind of song.
Sort of dealing with the realities of mortality.
And it was also halfway through the song it switches to Spanish, so it's a bilingual song, which was added onto it because that those 3 words I know in Spanish. I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
I'm like, it was
6 years.
and it also made me happy because there is, every, out of all the songs and things, none of those other songs were in it. There's no songs that were being nominated that were in a different language halfway through the song. And it was just kind of I feel like we're in the era, with music, where it's okay to have a song in a different language be popular.
There have been songs
Despacito,
Oh, yeah,
which is a
Despacito,
horrible
Justin
song if you
Bieber.
translate it.
But there are
he wants to be your magnet.
Magnet
and,
to your metal.
He wants to be a magnet to your metal.
But the thing is,
He wants to do it slowly.
Yeah. Foreign language songs have been around on the U.S. charts for a while. There are a few.
They have, but they went away for a long time.
No, La Bamba's always been popular.
Yeah, but no, I mean
99
in modern music.
K-pop, J-pop.
They're all and that's it. And that
BTS.
came in. And we've had a point Gangnam Style came in and was a hit. It's but it takes there's always one token kind of song. I'm just happy because there hasn't been a lot of mainstream Latin-inspired music. And considering all the music lately has been so sad, it's not even sad. It's just kind of bleh. All the music has been kind of
Well, the thing is, there's been good Latin music. It's just that it's not been
it's
mainstream.
not been mainstream. And
I mean,
that's
heck,
it.
there's guys like Gypsy Kings who were playing flamenco for a while.
But
Paco de Lucia.
all the music, and I'm hoping that because there is no I don't know. The Chainsmokers made everyone's music really depressing sounding.
Well, the Chainsmokers also made everybody's music sound exactly the same. So.
Yeah, they did.
And I never liked.
But it's like
that
everyone
type of
picked
music,
that
to be
sound
honest.
where it's like, we are monotone, everything's in a minor key, we're very slow. It's not sad, it's slightly melancholic. Millennials, we hate our lives. And it was all that. And finally, like, we get, like, a solid kind of, Despacito, which is like, screw all of that. We're having happy music. And then, like, Havana comes out with
Camila
Cabello. And even that, it has that, Cuban groove in it that makes it a little peppier. And then even, like, and now you're getting more of that kind of funk beats coming back in. And I'm happy because we're drifting away from that ethereal kind of end of the movie sad sounding music. It's like, oh, the movie ends melancholic, like, oh man, the end. Everything sounded like that. Now we're finally going to music that's like, oh, I can dance to this. Because you could not dance to the music that was coming out. I'm sorry, you couldn't. When there was a year where Coldplay was the happiest music. Coldplay. Oh, what? No, you can't do that.
What award did Jordan Peele win for Get Out? What was it?
It wasn't director because I went to Del Toro.
Screenwriter.
It was screenwriting.
Screenwriting?
It was either screenwriting or I don't think it was producer.
I just saw Get Out like a couple of weeks ago for the first time.
I haven't seen it.
Oh, it's really good. I thought it was really good. Yeah.
I never could watch. I didn't watch the whole Oscars. I couldn't take the ranting speeches or.
They didn't really. There weren't a lot of them this year.
There weren't a lot of them because I know there were a few.
Although I fast forwarded through mostly everything.
Good. Yeah, I just can't take it.
I think that. It was.
I just can't stand the hypocrisy of the whole thing.
Kimmel.
It was Kimmel. It was Jimmy Kimmel, right? I think he was hosting it.
Yeah. He did a good job, and the jet ski thing was.
And I never really liked Kimmel.
He said whoever did the shortest acceptance speech wins a jet ski and a trip to some lake in Arizona. And I think it went to cinematographer. The cinematographer had like a 37-second acceptance speech, and he won the jet ski. And he literally, you get a jet ski. So that was funny. And
amazing.
that was diffusion. And that's diffusion considering last year they screwed up so badly. Yeah. Oh, that was bad. Oh, La La Land.
Well, he made a joke about that too, right?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. Yeah, I never liked award shows though. Never liked them.
Well, they're not.
They're stupid to me because not only just them preaching their crap, but also the fact that award shows are so subjective.
Well, what I always found, the one thing that bothers me in movie award shows is, once again, Meryl Streep is nominated for some reason, for The Post. I'm happy that they just stopped giving it to her automatically because there was a time period where it's we just give it to Meryl Streep. But Meryl Streep said something interesting and they were talking about it, and I felt that she was not the right person to be talking. She was talking about how Hollywood, and this is an issue in Hollywood does not hire women above a certain age. And that is a fact.
Yeah, that happens.
Unfortunately, coming from Meryl Streep, who is the exception, by infinite amounts, because she's untouchable at this point. It's I get it because she's in that position that she can say that, so it's good. But on the other hand, coming from her, it's almost, it's odd because I'm it's Meryl clutching 782 Oscars says, women my age don't get to be in Hollywood and don't get nominated and don't get awards as she's clutching 1,000 Oscars.
It's kind of like when they wear those Time's Up things when they mostly knew about Harvey Weinstein and everybody doing it. Gee.
That's a discussion that could go on forever. And there's already fragmenting within that because
well, I mean, but let's be quite honest, most people in Hollywood knew about the predatory nature.
Well, there's also the fact that there's complaints that the Time's Up movement favors white actresses over actresses of color.
Oh, gotta
And
love that
there's,
intersectional ridiculousness.
Yeah, there's a lot, and then people are like, well, maybe we shouldn't have this fight. There was a discussion that basically...
I just love how the main problem in, like, the left is that they eat themselves. The snake eats its own
This isn't
tail.
even the left. This is something that should have been dealt with a long time ago.
Yeah, I know.
But-
This has been a problem in Hollywood
And
for
they're
a very
trying to
long time.
and they're trying to fix this because they don't want this to... The worst thing that could happen to this movement is for it to just implode.
Yeah.
But there are individuals that are stating that were stating things that created a divided issue. We talked about the Aziz Ansari one.
Yeah.
Like
there's evidence that
one,
like this might be turning into a witch hunt, and that could be a problem.
it wasn't even a witch hunt. It was the fact that and people finally said, they're like, okay, this started, where was the line going to be drawn for what are we fighting here? Because the Aziz Ansari one was, she was uncomfortable, but she repeatedly consented. But she texted him the next day and said, you should have picked up on my nonverbal cues.
He didn't read it.
Which he didn't read. And one of the issues
And he was really apologetic
not all the
as
time.
well.
I mean, I know a lot of people that suck at reading nonverbal cues.
Yeah,
There
yeah.
are a lot of people in this world that just can't pick that up. Which is why, and this has always been a thing, where especially sexual harassment in the workplace, the rule number one of sexual harassment in the workplace is before and eventually you can sue them for harassment. But the first round, you were supposed to tell them, I am uncomfortable with what you were doing. I believe that what you were doing is harassment. You need to stop. And you need to tell them that. Or you need to go to them, and this needs to be made clear to them, because they just might be stupid.
And there are people who just can't read these
And
cues.
there's people that are just, and I hate to, there are people that know better and do it anyway, but then there are some people that are just
bad at
stupid,
reading people.
Are just stupid, and I'm not defending them in any way, but I'm saying they're stupid, so you need to alert them and give the first instance, and only the first instance, you tell them, I'm uncomfortable with this, don't do this could be harassment, please stop, I'm uncomfortable, and if they stop, end the situation.
Yeah.
If they continue, then that's grounds for filing sexual harassment.
Yeah.
Or sexual misconduct, or any of those.
Yeah.
And that's actually a rule within most businesses. The problem is a lot of people don't pay attention to that. And they just, and it is hard
And
to...
it is a problem because
and it is also simultaneously, it is hard to,
figure out where the line's drawn.
especially if the person that is doing it is very aggressive.
Yeah.
This is why a lot of things are underreported, but there almost needs to be a safety net system, and this needs to be more open so people can,
Yeah.
get this out, because this is a lot more complex than a slogan. This is a lot more complex than wearing a lapel pin.
Yeah.
And we don't like complexity as humans. We want things done now and right and everything, snap our fingers and everything's fixed. And if we've learned anything from history, that never happens.
Yeah.
But we teach ourselves that it does, because we decide to not teach kids actual history, and we just kind of go,
Here's the simple bullet points. There's no complexity here.
Yeah,
blah,
we
blah,
basically
blah.
tell Martin Luther King showed up, gave a speech, and racism ended. Like, that's okay, yeah, no, that's not even close.
Everything was happily ever after.
And I feel that's another, we need to
Get more in depth.
and fact check. And unfortunately, can we talk about what's going, forget fake news, because fake news is always going to be, fake news and issues. But even non-news things in general, Snopes has become my favorite site in the world.
Yeah.
Really?
Because my friends who should know better will repost something on Facebook, like some article.
Oh, I see this a lot, yeah.
And I'm looking and I'm like, and I look at it and be like, this is the same. These are and they're all some website converted an old chain email from the 90s into an article. There was one I was reading about Neiman Marcus's 200. It was like, I don't know, it was like a $250 cookie recipe or something, or it's like some, or like a just ridiculously overpriced cookie recipe where she asked for the cookie recipe and like they said okay and they gave it to her, but then they charged her money, but since she saw it she had to pay it. And like my friend shared it and was like, oh man, you know, blah blah blah. And it's amazing. I mean, that story, they said, Snopes actually said, yeah, this has been going around since the 1800s with a railroad cookie recipe. This is like the original chain, mailer, right? Send this to 10 friends, or, it's been in books. And like, but they just tweak it a little and then they post it. And it's funny because Facebook has now become those stupid chain emails. And when you got chain emails, you didn't believe them, but now like they put them in article form and people.
I never liked Facebook.
Facebook's been awful for a while. It's just
really,
full of garbage.
I've never liked
really
Facebook.
Is.
But then again, yeah.
But how many people I know, they post an article, it's like, and I know immediately, I look at it and go, like, I'm pretty sure that, like, now this news site.ru is not, like, really?
And I've been zoning out, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Fine.
It's the end of the show.
I missed out on...
We've been having intense conversations.
It's the end of the show anyway. I think we talked about a tenth of what we were going to. We went down the
What
rabbit
were we
hole.
gonna talk about?
I don't know.
I don't know anymore.
Whoa, it's hot in here.
Yeah, admittingly, it always gets like either a furnace or
It's
like
either 1,000 or it's like -2.
Yeah. There's no middle ground in here.
Nope.
Is anybody planning on going to see Ready Player One in a few weeks?
I hear that.
I'm actively ignoring it.
You are?
Really?
Yes.
Why?
I heard it's good.
I think it's going to be really stupid.
Well, they showed it at South by Southwest in Austin, and I heard it got pretty good reception.
Okay, here's my deal with Ready Player One. First of all, the concept is kind of dumb.
Well, it was based on a novel.
I mean, and secondly, what's really dumb about it is like, hey, we're the lost, we're the lost millions generation, and we go into this virtual reality world that has, characters from Overwatch and the car from Back to the Future and the Iron Giant and a bunch of copyrighted material.
But
it's Internet the movie.
Yeah, here's the comments on that, right? That's what the internet is like. It's accurate.
I know, but like,
I heard it's
it might be good.
Okay,
Spielberg's taking the helm. It'll
Probably
probably be
a
good.
very good movie if you like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But for me, it's gonna be Pixels.
No, it'll be better.
No,
than
there's
no
a
matter
big
what
difference.
you do, it's gonna be. I don't see myself, and I don't like. Of course, I'm also not a person that. How do I put this? In a way
You're not
that
a gaming
translates.
person.
Well, one, I'm not a gaming person, but two, I don't like crossovers. I never have.
You are not human.
I don't think it's necessarily a crossover. I think,
Yeah, it's-
But
like,
no,
it's,
it's not. But
what
I
it
don't
is
like,
that people can like make their avatars things, and like they use avatars from. It's like VR chat.
Yeah, exactly. And my thing is, I don't know. I've always, I like original concepts.
Yeah.
Or I like, like I said, I like my Star Wars within my Star Wars. I don't like it bleeding out.
Actually,
into other things.
I just saw there was a post on the front page of Reddit. Disney wouldn't let Star Wars be in Ready Player One because of like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Disney,
yeah, it's
come on.
so there's not gonna be any Star Wars.
And
in it.
even like, and I don't like Supercross. I'm already a little bit concerned with Infinity War. Because I don't want to have Guardians of the Galaxy in my Avengers.
I did see the Infinity War trailer this morning. It looks just
really
like a giant.
mess.
That's what it is. A giant crossover.
It's just a giant crossover.
Yeah.
And and the problem with Ready Player One, like I'm watching this, and even the brief scenes that you see where it's like, and I look at it, and this is the difference to me. I'm a communications major.
Yeah.
I study, I just had to sit in advertising class and watch a 40-minute, documentary on typography and font. I spot, so, when I see this, I'm like, this is branding. This is a commercial. This is, the same reason I am very disturbed with Ralph Breaks the Internet. It's just the Emoji Movie made by Disney. I don't, the thing with Star Wars is, like, I like having Star Wars and Star Wars. there's no product placement in Star Wars. Star Wars is its own universe and it's contained. And Marvel initially, until it got to Avengers stuff, it was semi-contained, and then they just started kind of folding them all into each other. And comic books do that because they like crossover, and that's their thing. And people like that. I don't like that. I like a separation of ideas.
So you'd say that you're an entertainment segregationist.
Really, Joe?
I'm sorry, it popped into my brain.
Yeah, it would. But that's, my... And I'm sure Ready Player One's going to be a really good movie.
The biggest thing I've heard about Ready Player One is that it's going to be very divisive because there's the novel and then there's the movie.
Yeah.
And the transition from the novel to the movie,
Well,
they basically took the novel, changed a whole lot, and then got the movie. So the people that read the novel and are expecting the novel are going to be really
the novel.
disappointed.
When was the novel written? Like the 80s?
I don't know.
I think it was written
like
in
80s,
the
90s.
Yeah, I think it was written in the 80s. So obviously they're going to have to update it.
That was going to be a dramatic change. And the thing is, it was written in the 80s, 90s.
Around then, yeah.
Like that. I mean, even then, that immediately, this concept, and I feel like the whole virtual reality world kind of thing is, like, especially since we're now reaching that point where we're almost there, making a movie about it is kind of weird. But also, I don't know. I don't want to watch... I think if I was in the real virtual reality thing and there was like a bunch of like VR chat and there's just like a bunch of copyrighted like my Sonic OC Do Not Steal, kind of stuff going on.
There's
I would
some
get
Knuckles
it
over there with an accent.
I am in it and I'm like, okay, people are nuts. But the fact that someone spent $1 kajillion to turn that concept into a movie is where I'm like, okay, this is where it's weird. Because I'm watching a movie about people... I'm basically watching a movie about fan fiction.
Well, I mean, I'm sure it's got a plot. Like stuff is gonna happen.
And
in
the plot is also, I saw the trailer and I'm like, oh no, oh man, the creator of the Oasis died, and he left a literal Easter egg in the game, and whoever finds it gets control and $1 kajillion.
It's Willy Wonka.
I'm like, it's
come with me.
It's like every single movie where the guy's dead and he's like, I've hidden my family. If you find this, you get the family fortune. And then everyone goes to try to kill each other to get it.
That's a trope that's been around for a while, though, in fiction.
And it is, and it's just like funny. And the other thing is, I'm sorry, but if I see a DeLorean in one more movie, I'm going to have a stroke. Specifically, the Back to the Future time machine DeLorean.
Why? What's your problem with that?
I don't like Back to the Future.
What?
And the fact is, people, and the problem is...
Burn the heretic.
Our generation, and this is the thing that happened because of us. I was just talking to my friend, he didn't realize the DeLorean was an actual car. Like, the DeLorean Motor Company existed, and that was a real car. He thought it was just made for the movie, and it was a dork. But that car, like, everyone's like, oh man, that's such an iconic car. That car was meant to look dated, and when that movie came out, that was a dorky car from a guy who may or may not have been illegally selling drugs.
What?
Like, it was, the owner of DeLorean Motor Company, and he ended up dying, but they accused him of, he was drug peddling or something like that. He was acquitted, he didn't actually do it. But, he was forever known as, that. And the company just made a couple, 2,000 DeLoreans, and they were trash cars, and the gull wing doors were stupid. They'd always break. And the car was horribly dated.
It was awkward parking, I hear.
The reason they picked it for Back to the Future is, one, they're like, it had that kind of dorky science-looking car. But two, it looked, it was that exact kind of of course you would take a DeLorean of all things. It was a stupid, it would be like because Doc Brown was a nut. It's like, of course you picked a DeLorean. That's why, even Marty McFly said, it's like a time machine. He's like, out of a DeLorean? That line wasn't meant to be like, really? That line is supposed to be like, of all the, why didn't you just pick a Yugo while you're at it? It was like he picked a stupid car, but all of us are like, oh man, I'd love a DeLorean. Oh man, DeLorean is so cool. Like, the DeLorean was never meant to be cool. It was meant to be stupid. It was a kitschy, dorky car. And we've kind of taken it and gone like, oh, it's so cool. Like, no!
Well, a movie kind of.
Well, yeah,
and the movie and that movie was never meant to do that. That movie was never meant to spin the way that movie went.
Really?
And that movie was supposed to be dorky.
People aren't allowed to like things.
They're allowed to like it.
No,
But
I
the
know,
movie
I
was
know,
supposed to be-
I know.
I think
Way
the problem is,
way to go, Nico.
as time goes on, people lose kitsch. They lose the ability to comprehend things that were intentionally dorky. Like, everything in the Back to the Future part, I mean, as much as we're like, oh, isn't that what 2015 or whatever is supposed to look like?
Yeah.
No! It was supposed to look stupid.
Yeah.
You know, it was a
Yeah.
1980s Mattel hoverboard. It was supposed to look stupid. The Max Headroom looking television screen people with that goofy looking Pepsi. It was supposed to look kitschy and dumb, and everything's covered in hologram, hats and it was
Yeah.
supposed to look stupid. All the fashion in that movie was not meant to look futuristic. It was meant to look like if we took the 80s and said, well, what do you think the future's gonna... what if they were doing this? Doesn't that look stupid? It was everything that movie's supposed to look dorky because anytime someone really tries to... anytime someone tries to actually predict the future, they get it way wrong and everything looks bad. Mm-hmm. And then you're like, that looks dated. They intentionally made something look dorky, but then we decided to, jump on that, and it's derailed the aesthetic of everything in the last 5 years.
What?
Oh, fashion's been looking really bad lately because people are taking now they're combining the 70s with the 80s and but they're taking how it looks like in an old photo, so all the colors are all faded out and look really bad.
You see,
So everything looks really bad.
You see, it helps if you're like me and just don't care about fashions, jeans and a t-shirt for every occasion.
And that's it. And you're lucky, but I'm a fashion person and I'm watching and I'm like, when are we getting out of this nightmare? And the colors are shifting to we're having 80s cut clothing, or no, we have 80s. It's very weird because we have 70s right next to 80s, which you should never have this go-go looking, Bond girl-esque, late 60s, early 70s striped pant kind of hippie with bell sleeves right next to these off-colored millennial pink crop top bralettes with bomber jackets and velvet boots. You can't have the 80s with the set. They don't mesh. Those they're very distinct from each other, and that was on purpose. And if you try to put them together, it looks really bad. Which is why if you go to a mall right now, it looks like someone was going through their closet that they had stored for 30 years and went, well, I don't want that. I don't want that. Oh, oh man, I can't believe I wore that. And it's throwing all these things on the floor and someone's picking them up and going, I'm putting them on the mannequins. Nothing is cut. And now 90s grunge is coming into it too simultaneously.
Ooh, I get to buy myself a flannel coat. And,
there's but they're all combining it badly. There was one, it was a flannel shirt dress with a military jacket, but it can't be a regular military jacket, so they cut the sleeves at 3/4 lengths and make the sleeves skinny, but the jacket's still heavy. And then there's not leggings, and then there's just a sock and boots that don't match it.
A sock.
And nothing matches each other, and everything's very loud and crazy.
One
Then you go into Forever 21, and they have a repeating Nintendo 64 logo on a crop hoodie.
Oh,
wow.
Oh, new Smash Bros. For Switch was announced.
Really?
Yeah.
Very interesting.
We'll never see Bobby again.
No. Did you play, I just recently had a friend turn me on to this game. Have you played Kingdom Come, that medieval RPG
Yeah, we
game?
talked about this before, right?
Did we?
Yeah.
Did we?
Yeah.
Oh, we did?
It's I haven't tried it out yet.
I finally got my hands on it. It's it's legitimately if you ignore the glitches, there are some bad glitches, but it's legitimately well done.
Yeah.
The RPG elements and the story and all that from what I've heard.
Woo.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
New Smash Bros.
I think we
People
went a
weren't
little
expecting
bit over. this
We've
episode.
gone way over, so tune in next week for more wacky adventures.
I forgot what I was gonna say.
You're gonna say Will I Am.
No, I was gonna
I'ma
say,
be-
will
I'ma be-
Nico be
I'ma-
back?
I'ma be-
Will Joe ever get over whatever he's trying to get over? And will Bobby ever say more than a few words?
Nope.
I was zoning out today. I wasn't paying attention. like you were just talking about things, and then like it started talking about sexual harassment. I'm like, oh, this is actually a relevant topic that I could talk about, but I've already missed half of the conversation.
You woke up at some point
At some
and were
point.
like, oh, I don't know what to say because I don't know where this conversation's going.
Oh no. Just remember, folks, tune in next week, same time, same channel, for Niagara 124. You first or me?
I'm Bobby.
I'm Joe.
And I'm Nico. Goodbye.
And